I think social innovation is just finding an innovative solution to whatever social issue you care about.
FuSIon Fest is a new festival and it's all about social innovation. So social innovation really is about coming up with new solutions to social challenges. We have a lot of social challenges in Northern Ireland, whether we're talking about healthcare, whether we're talking about poverty, unemployment, sectarianism, take your pick.
We are involved in the social Innovate-NI collaboration in order to get different people into the room, collaborating, talking about social issues, social problems and how we can potentially find solutions to those.
We're trying to use community shares to rebuild an old pub in Ballymena and turn it into a venue that both business and the community can be used together.
We built a community boat. There's a real brilliant community has grown up around it, and we've just made the most of all of their skills.
We run a project for people suffering from cystic fibrosis. Our clients don't always like to meet or be in crowds because of cross-infection, so we come up with an idea of FaceTime. So now we have, iPads, and we use the iPads where they can be at home or can be in some other setting.
I'm really loving today, just in terms of the experience, the opportunity really to make some connections.
There's been some really, really interesting conversations already, some really interesting talks.
The aim of the conference is to really bring people together from the public sector, the private sector and the community and voluntary sector, and to think about what support is needed, what funding is needed, and what brokerage of connections is needed to enable people to come up with new ideas.
There's already a lot of social innovation happening in Northern Ireland. Through Social Innovate-NI, we have 2 programmes open for applications until December. So we've got Techies in Residence and we've got the Social Innovation Skills programme. So both of those are really practical support programmes that people can access if they want to start a new social innovation journey.
Within government, we are in an environment where we're always facing sort of budgetary constraints. We need to start to think about different ways to do things, more innovative ways to do things, thinking outside the box. So it's really important for something like this to give people the opportunity to learn about social innovation.
A lot of organisations and funders are very busy doing lots of things, but they don't step back and reflect on why it is they're doing what they're doing and whether what they're doing is having any difference or having any impact at all.
There is a lot of funding out there in Northern Ireland from independent funders, and there's also funding available for government. But it's not just about the amount of funding, it's about helping them be used in such a way that they enable people to be creative and be innovative and don't put them in straitjackets and stymie that innovation that we're looking for.
The idea of Brewgetter is effectively to make a craft lager and to use the profits to fund clean drinking water projects in developing countries. There needs to be a rebalancing away from grant-based organisations in general, because that funding will increasingly become harder and harder to get, more people looking for a smaller pot.
Private sector people bring a different mindset, a different approach to problem solving. They bring different types of money to the table than government money, often more flexible money.
The thing that I'm interested in is private companies that now have a tech for good element in what they're doing. This year I've invested in a local company here in Derry called Elemental Software, and that's an example of a privately owned business that has a social conscience and a social driver in the things that they do. And I love that stuff.
Obviously we look at the idea, is it innovative? But we also look at the person or the people and say, do we believe that these people can do that thing? Because the thing is great, but without the people it's not going to happen.
Looking at the people in the next door room, because we're here at FuSIon, there are some really smart people and they need to have the blue touch paper lit underneath them to say, you can be the best in the world at what you do. I began the Eden project in Cornwall. Over a long period of about 18 months, we raised £144 million. And you know how we did it? We just looked at people and we said, forget that you represent the department of this in government or the lottery. Let's call you by your name. I believed I could persuade 300 people professionally trained to say no, to say yes. And that's the cool thing about Derry. You're talking about a place where everybody believes it should be hopeless. What happens if you turn it right the other way around and you say, just imagine you have a city on one of the most beautiful rivers in the world. You have property that doesn't cost very much. You have a very intelligent group of people who have an artistic tradition, a literary tradition, a poetic tradition, and it's all there. How do you like the touch paper on it? And then everybody's going to say, why didn't we see that? Why didn't we see that? 20 years from now, there's no reason we can't be Barcelona.
It's been a great success. We had over 250 registrations for the two-day festival. We've had lots of engagement, audience engagement, participation, lots of people going away inspired and also thinking about how they can make small changes and how we can do things differently. So it's really just opened the conversation.
I think it's a kind of cool fusion of tech and cultural enterprise. You don't kind of see a lot of conferences like that in other areas, I think. So this was really cool, and there are lots of good examples of what people are doing and how they're making an impact.
You know, like social innovation, it's a really fancy word, but it basically means powerfully ordinary people doing great things to make a difference where they live.
Social innovation is a word that's bandied about, but today it was crystallised for me, and what it meant and how you can make change society and the big problems that we're facing.
Years ago, David Cameron used to talk about big society and everybody laughed at him. There actually is a big society out there, and that's capturing that and using that power and that strength to take communities forward.